Okay, here we go. What's up? No. Can you imagine being that kind of YouTuber? That's cringe. So Epic Games just added the new Stormsurge mechanics in the testing in the NA's Evaluation Cup. And the Stormsurge mechanic right now is very, very confusing overall. So I'm going to try to explain it and make it a little bit easier for those of you that don't fully understand it. So if you take a look at the Fortnite competitive tweet, you can see that the thresholds are as it currently says over here. 90 players alive in second zone when it shows itself. Third zone, we have 64 players. Fourth zone, 54 players. Fifth zone, 44 players. Sixth zone, 40 players. And 7th zone, 30 players. Now these numbers, the way that you need to think about it is essentially when those zones reveal itself. So when you see it on your map, when you see the second zone, that's when the Stormsurge will be active. Now let me try to explain it a little bit more easier and having some basic guidelines when you want to think about Stormsurge essentially. So let's say we're playing a game of Fortnite and first zone shows itself. Completely fine, nothing is happening. There's 94 people alive right now. Nothing is happening right now. It's completely fine. First zone has only shown itself. When this first zone starts to close, and we're getting towards that second zone, but we haven't seen second zone yet on our map. We just see the first zone starting to close, starting to get smaller. That is when we're going to get our first Stormsurge warning. And that's because there's 94 people left alive, and that number needs to go down towards 90. Now, when the first zone has fully closed itself, and there's 94 people alive, that's when we're going to have the Stormsurge activated, and we're going to go from 94 down to 90. When that happens, all those players are down, and let's now imagine that we go from that 94 down to 88 people left alive, and we're now into second zone. Now, second zone has now started to close itself, and then we're going to get our next Stormsurge warning again, because as the general rule that you need to remember is when the zone starts to close, that's when you're going to have your Stormsurge warnings. When the zone reveals itself, that's when the Stormsurge is going to be active. So now there's 88 people left alive. The second zone is now starting to close. And then we're going to have a Stormsurge warning from 88, because now we're going to go from 88 all the way down to 64 in total, and that is going to be a mess. That's a lot of people are going to die. So the second zone now starts to close itself. And then when the second zone has fully closed itself, and then we see the third zone on our map, that is when the Stormsurge will activate, and we go from 88 people alive down to 64. Now, let's say that happens, 64 people, and I would say we have a little bit more people dying, and now we're down to 62 people left alive when the third zone has shown itself. The zone now changes, and now the third zone starts to close itself. Now, we're going to get another Stormsurge warning because we need to go from 62 down to 54 players. So we're going to get ourselves a Stormsurge warning. The third zone is going to start to close, and then when the third zone fully closes itself, that's when the Stormsurge will activate, and we're going to go down to that magic number of 54. So let's say that happens, and we're down to 52 players left alive, and we're still on that static zone before fourth zone is starting to close. Well, now when the zone is starting to close, let's say we see fourth zone and now it's starting to close on top of fourth zone. Now we need to go down to 44 players. And now we're going to get another Stormsurge warnings because we've got to go from 52 down to 44. Zone starts to close on fourth zone. Bam. Boom. Zone is closed on 44. And now we see that new half and half zone pop up, and now that is when this Stormsurge is going to activate, and we need to go down all the way down to 44. So we go from 52 down to 44. This is essentially the same sort of Stormsurge that we have for half and half surge. So essentially the exact same thing. When that half and half zone shows itself, that's when surge is going to activate, and that's where we're going to go to. So now, let's imagine we have 44 people left alive. Now, we're going to start having that fifth zone start to close as well. So now we need to go from 44. Now we're in fourth zone, and we see that half and half zone show. We're going to go towards fifth zone. So now the zone is going to start to close itself towards that fifth zone getting smaller. And now we're going to get another Stormsurge warning because we're going to go down to 40 now. So the zone is starting to close, zone is starting to close, fifth zone is fully closed, and then we see the first moving zone and where that goes. And now the Stormsurge is going to pop up because we need to go from 44 down to 40 overall. And let's say that happens now, Stormsurge activates, we go from 44 down to 40. And let's say now we have 39 players left alive. Now we're going to go from the first moving zone, and there's 39 players left alive. By the time first moving zone fully closes itself, there's more than 30 players left alive. That's when we're going to get final moving zone surge. So when the second moving starts to move all the way across the zone, that's when your second moving surge is going to activate, and we're going to go down all the way down towards 30 players left alive. And then that is the end of Stormsurge. So essentially, basic rules you need to think of. You're going to get your warnings when the zones start to close, and when the zones fully reviews itself and you see that zone on your screen, according to the indicator that we saw on the Fortnite competitive tweet, right? So we see those indicators, or that's when the Stormsurge is going to activate itself, and that's when you need to start killing people, and we're going to go down towards those numbers. Hopefully that explains it a little bit easier. I know it's very confusing. If you have any questions, make sure to check out my Twitter. I'll answer some questions over there, but that's basically the answers of the new Stormsurge changes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.